All right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about one of the most interesting topics that was brought up during the AMA a few weeks ago, and that was centered around guilds. Now, a few of you guys may be asking, wow, Else, you are really on the ball with this content creation stuff. How are you able to get a video out 2 weeks later on a topic that was covered? And I gotta say, I know, guys, I am extremely punctual. I'm just quick to the draw on these sorts of things. Other content creators just can't compete on this level. I totally get it. In all seriousness, I've just been busy with real life stuff. I have a bunch of videos that I want to post. I have a list, and the things that are still pertinent, that are still informative, are going to be posted on this channel, and this is one of them. I thought this was a very interesting thing to discuss, so we're going to discuss it, damn it. But yeah, it's centered around guilds. So with that being said, let's dive into it. Now, I first want to start off by saying that the AMA I thought was really well done. Steven Sharif from Intrepid did a fantastic job of answering questions. The content creators, Vladis, Jamie Chaos, Sunny from Loreforged, and Nice Gaming, of course, did a fantastic job of curating questions from the community and asking those questions to Steven, asking the most important questions that I think the community wanted to know. I thought they all did a really good job. Overall, I think when you curate questions from the community like that, you get some of the best answers, because you're just, it's a mind meld of information trying to pull the best question possible. And so we got a lot of information from the AMA. I will provide a link in the description if you guys want to go check the entire thing out if you haven't seen it yet. But one of the biggest topics that got brought up twice in two different questions was about guilds. Now, MMORPGs are supposed to be more of a social thing, and more recently, a lot of MMORPGs have taken the more solo aspect, beat this dungeon solo, play this game solo, and a massively multiplayer online role-playing game and solo gameplay it's not really synonymous with one another, right? Like, you need more social interactions. And so, Vladis asked the question about guild tools, and I thought the answer from Steven was really good, and I promise I will play his answer here. But I wanted to provide a little segue before that, so we kind of understand like why I thought this was so cool. But I've been a guild leader in the past. I've been a guild member, just like all of you guys have. Like, we've all been parts of guilds before, and from the games I've played, and guys, I haven't played every single MMORPG ever. I don't know which guild, which games have specific tools, but from the games that I've played, I've always felt like the guild tools are a little lacking. Like, when you're a guild leader, you want to bring in members, you want to have a good, healthy roster of players, you want to have people participating, and you want to make sure people are having fun. You want to make sure that if they're going to join your guild, they're going to have fun playing with your guild, with whatever you're doing, whether you're social, you're a role-playing guild, you're a PvP guild, you're an economic guild, it doesn't matter. Like, you want people to participate. And more often than not, the tools that I have seen for guild leaders is you have your roster of the players that are in your guild, and then you have maybe your message of the day. You could post something, but there's really no interaction. It's not like a Facebook style interaction. I know it's not like a Twitter style interaction or anything like that, another big social media account where somebody posts something and then people can reply and respond below it. It's basically just a one-way thing. The guild leader says, hey, this is going to happen, and then that's it. And so there's no two-way interaction there. And so what a lot of guilds in other games that I have played have done is they outsource these types of communications to other platforms that do it better, like Discord, for instance. So instead of having all of your communications on the game, you have your communications on Discord. You have your social chat where you can bounce around among different chats, which other games have, of course. But with the board that Discord has, where you can post different things, you can post updates, and you can chat via text, it just allows people to interact in a way that, they could interact in and out of the game. So if they're at work, they can pull this up. If they're wanting to respond to a guild leader's post, they're able to respond there. They're instead of like trying to catch them online or messaging them on the side, it just makes it a lot easier. I think the vast majority of us are on Discord or have Discord accounts or some sort of account like that long term. But Steven's answer I thought was really good. He basically said that, well, I don't want to take words from his mouth, but he basically wants to outsource he wants to have those tools available natively within the game. So here's his answer.
Okay, to preface, guilds, the backbone of the entire Ashes community, right? Alliances and so forth. You were a guild leader in Lineage. So guilds are a very important feature in Ashes of Creation. So my first question is, can you give some examples of guild tools that are going to be in Ashes of Creation from a player data perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I so little fun history. I started playing MMOs obviously when I was really young. 7 years old. I didn't have a guild then. That would probably have been concerning if I was in a guild as a 7-year-old, considering the content typically that exists within the guild atmosphere. But when I was 17 and started playing Lineage 2, my first guild that I ever joined was called Darkness. I was a little bit of an edgelord back then. So I was in a guild called Darkness, and then I started my guild, which I ran for a number of years. I think almost 14 or 15 years, and wow. we had thousands of members across the world. And we would have really cool guild meetings. We would meet up in person. We had like a really intense guild DKP system where I had like engineers custom author an auction website that people had account services on in the guild, and they would get like, DKP points and stuff. And I always hated having to kind of do that myself. Right. I always wished that some of the tools that I wanted to use as a guild leader were not like native to the game system that I was involved in, especially if I was able to like slurp data from the game and inform decisions, whether it be participatory data, whether it be like kill counts for a war, or like just different things that I would use essentially to kind of gauge how are my members performing, right? And how can I leverage administrative tools to message them either offline, like an SMS text system, or the forum connectivity, or know what their kind of like play times might be if they want to share those with me, so that I can cater them to certain groups and constant parties and mix and match people. Like those types of layers of like tools are what I'm trying to achieve with Ashes, and having it be native to the game.
Now, I thought this was really good. Because this solves one of the problems that I think you have with guilds and guild retention. Obviously, you can outsource to things like Discord, but some players aren't going to want to do that. Some players just do not want to go to download another thing in order to play a game. They just want to play the game. And so having tools native allows retention to be a lot easier. It's one less step in order to communicate with guild members and people within your guild. And I think it'll help a lot for retention. I think retention, it really comes from the fact that if people are interacting and they're having fun, they stay more involved and they stay in the guild. If they don't want to join Discord, and if they don't want to interact on those other accounts, they're part of the guild, but they might not necessarily feel like they're part of the guild. They're just there in name only, and they might change their mind. They might go somewhere else. And so these types of interactive tools, knowing what players like to play, like if they have a freehold, if they're located in this area, it allows guild leaders to potentially link up these players with other like-minded players. If you're part of a big social guild, obviously a big social guild has a bunch of players that like to do a bunch of different things. And so fitting different players within specific umbrellas based off of location, based off of what they like, is really valuable for those players to like learn their craft and learn, play with like-minded players that like what they're doing. And so I thought that was really informative. I really like the aspect also that he brought up of knowing family trees. I think that helps you potentially root out spies. So if you have an account that wants to join your guild and they're linked to a bunch of accounts that familial wise that you don't like, you can potentially root them out with these types of tools. And you can go, hey, like these people are obviously not part of the guild for a good reason. They're trying to track our information. They're trying to have other access to information. This is a bad thing. I thought that was a really interesting tool. And obviously, the other great one that he talked about was statistics for different events that you're participating in. And obviously, Intrepid and Ashes of Creation are going to have a bunch of events. You're going to have wars. You're going to have, node wars are coming Friday. You're going to have your node sieges. You're going to have your caravan events. And so being able to track all these different things on what players are doing and having that sort of information just is another level of detail that not a lot of other games are covering. And so I thought all this was really good. The fact that it's integrated, the fact that it's one less step, it's one less thing that you have to do in order to stay involved within a guild is really valuable. But that wasn't the only thing that got popped up about guilds. Another question was brought up about the difference between small and large guilds and the goal of these things. And so Steven's answer was really good. I am not going to try to Cliff's notes it for you. I'll just provide it here.
So Annie and I plan to have the Chaos and Lace Cartel, but we'll probably be like a smaller guild. So this one's focused around that. Nice. Smaller guilds can opt to enhance their passive skills as a strategic choice over increasing membership size. Could you elaborate on the passive skills available to smaller guilds and how they enable them to remain competitive against larger guilds in various gameplay scenarios?
Yeah, and to be honest, like that is a delicate line to play with. Because what happens when you make those passive abilities too strong, then you create the meta of how guild structures should be on this game. And so it means that, you know, if it's a zero-sum choice between I either take the passives or I'm bad, you know, it's like everyone's going to take the passive. So there has to be some complement between, you know, why guilds want to have expansion options versus passives. And so passives will be delegated to certain groups within the guild. And the core groups will have stronger passive access. So when you first form a guild and you're level 0, you know, you may have 30 guild slots available to you, right? And that's your core guild group. And you can move people in and out of that group because when you get expansion slots, they form separate groups in the guild structure. That might be a knight or a squadron group, right? Whatever you're going to want to call it, because you customize it based on the guild. And then those groups will have access to certain types of passives. Some of the passive types will be horizontal, some will be vertical, and it will be dependent on where you as a guild member are placed within those groups. And the placement within those groups are determined by the guild administrators, right? And so guilds will then spend currency as well as skill points to invest in those passives for those particular groups. And so what we want to do is we want to maintain the strongest passives for the central groups and allow it to decrease in power going outward from there. So even guilds that select to go expansionist still have some passive abilities that they can spec into. But the guilds that choose to stay smaller, they can concert their skill points towards the more central groups, leveling up those passives to higher strengths. And those passive types are things like waterfall stat augments, you know, crit rate, regen values, and then they can get a little bit more intricate with the types of effects that they have, like, you know, negating an attack, a spell attack against you as a target every 30 seconds or something. It depends on kind of what we're talking about with the abilities. They are wide ranging, but the intent is for them to be impactful.
Yeah, this is something I've thought about quite a bit. You guys know I like having smaller. I like being part of a smaller group. I don't want to be part of like a large 1,000-person guild. I'm more PvP focused, so I want a smaller, more centralized group of people. And so the topic on large guilds versus small guilds is interesting. And the point that he brought up about the differing powers of small guilds versus large guilds is a really good point, because if the small guild bonuses are too powerful, then everybody's going to just make a bunch of small guilds and they'll all link up through Discord like we just talked about. You want it to be a choice, and having horizontal and vertical progression makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize that you were going to have different umbrellas for passives, and so this opens up an entire interesting concept for how guilds are formed. So obviously guilds can grow and develop, and they can rank up themselves based off of, I'm guessing, what you do and what you participate in, which also allows for group participation, retention, that social aspect of MMORPGs. But also, depending on the amount of people that you have, you might want to allocate points in different ways. And so if you're a big social guild and you want, to I don't know what these examples are going to be, guys. I'm just providing them. But if you have traders, that people that like to sell and merchant goods, you might want to have, reduced fees. You might want to have an area of reduced fees where people that are making a ton of gold that are providing to your war chest, they have less fees for exchanging these things on the market. And so you might want to reduce that because that increases your top dollar, right? If you have crafters, you might want to have reduced crafting fees. If you have PvPers, you obviously you would stack it a damage. And so it'll be interesting to see how these different guilds will be able to span out. And so this means that these big social guilds, they can cater to all these different types of players, and they can fit them under these umbrellas with these different bonuses. Now, hypothetically, if you're named after a movie that came out roughly 20 years ago, and you have a guild named the Myrmidons, and you have a 30 to 40 man roster, like a very small PvP oriented roster, and your entire goal is to work together to defeat larger foes, all hypothetically, of course. But if you're this type of player, you don't have to worry about horizontal progression and stacking everything in the other way. You can just say, hey, we are a PvP focused guild. All of our bonuses are going to go into PvP. We're going to stack everything under this umbrella. So not only are we going to get attack bonuses, defense bonuses, regeneration bonuses, it's everybody, as long as we're a guild participating and we're doing stuff together, we're just going to keep stacking bonuses within this tree. And so I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was a really interesting idea because this allows smaller guilds that, if you're a 30 or 40 man group and you're accomplishing the same goals, if you're leveling up in the same way that a larger guild is, that means you're doing more. And so it's just allowing those smaller players to just have a larger bonus and being rewarded for those specific things. It also opens up an interesting avenue because if only so many people can fit under one of these bonuses, it means that some players on the outside looking in, it's two different discussions I've had in the past with other content creators, but you might have this situation where you have PvPers that will essentially outsource themselves like free agents, right? Like, hey, you guys have a 10% bonus to attack damage. I'm a PvPer. Why am I not getting this 10% bonus? And the guild comes back and they say, hey, we already have PvPers. Like, if you want this 10% bonus, you're going to have to work for our guild, or you're going to have to go somewhere else. And that PvPer can go, okay, well, I'm going to go somewhere else and get this attack bonus. And so they can basically just go around and say, hey, I like to kill things. Give me this bonus. If you're not going to give me this bonus, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? And so I think you might see a free agent style scenario where specific players in and it's not just PvPers, guys. Like crafters could do the same thing. Trade merchants could do the exact same thing. Like, hey, I want these best bonuses. I want to advance my character. Which guild allows me to do this the best, right? So I could absolutely see this happening. I can also see a situation to where this promotes participating in your guild. Like I talked about before, a long time ago in this video, guild participation sometimes waxes and wanes based off of how you can communicate and who you can work with and who you can talk to. Having these tools integrated and then also having these incentives for bonuses, if leaders can say, hey, we want to reward our most participating members with the best bonuses, which makes sense. Like, hey, you do the most, you should get the most. It then provides incentivization for the players below. Like, hey, yeah, I am a really good crafter. I do like to craft these things. I like to craft for the guild. I'm making stuff, but obviously these other 5 people ahead of me are doing more. And so if I want to have these bonuses to advance my specific MMORPG player loop, I need to participate more. I need to participate more in the guild. I need to give these players incentivization to give me these bonuses over somebody else. And so I think it would lead to a lot more participation. So if you're not participating, you don't get put under an umbrella. When you do participate, you could get put into these different spots. And so I thought that was interesting. I thought this is a nice two-pronged approach for promoting participation among a guild. You want people to be able to communicate with easy access information. You want guild leaders to have these easy to access stats to try to attempt to lump players in together to communicate in an online MMORPG. And then you also want to have that sort of incentivization via game mechanics that allows players to say, hey, not only do you want to join a guild, but it benefits you to work in this guild, potentially to get bonuses, to get rewarded for the things that you're doing for the guild. And so all this I thought was fantastic. I hope by now you guys can tell why I wanted to talk about this. There's a lot to talk about. We're almost 20 minutes into this video already. So I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about guild tools. I got more stuff coming down the pipeline. I will end this one here. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.